We are now less than a week to the NFL draft first round. It would have taken place a week from last night, and we'd be getting ready right now for rounds 2 and 3, which will take place Friday night. Panthers have the 8th overall pick in the first round. You know what? I was thinking of this. Excuse me. ESPN put out a mock draft where they gave 2 picks for every. They're digging deep now, right? Now it's like, right, because we have a billion mock drafts and nothing has changed since the combine. So the mock drafters are out there like, I did a mock draft, but this time I only watched film rotated upside down. So I call it the upside down mock, and it's who looks best with it flipped from right-handed to left-handed. That's what I did this time, and I'm like, oh, okay. I did a mock draft this time, but it was a game of telephone. So I got 30 people sitting around a big conference room, and I whispered a name into the person to my right, and they whispered it, and whatever name was at the end, that's the mock draft we picked. I said Michael Williams. It got to Shedeur Sanders. I don't know. Right? So the mock drafts are getting aggressive. ESPN did a mock draft where they gave 2 picks for every pick. One is what they called drafting for need. The other was drafting for value. And for the Panthers at number 8, they gave Jalon Walker as a pick for need, and they gave Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver, as a pick for value. And I started thinking about it, and I went, you know what? I think a lot of teams do have to make that decision. Are you going to draft for need or are you going to draft for value? Right? Because there are teams out there that might have 2 really good corners, but the best player is a corner. What do we do? I think the Panthers don't have to worry about that this year. They're kind of like, I almost said they're lucky. They are in a situation where the best players expected to be available at 8 are also at premium positions of need for the Panthers. So it's like you don't have to judge like who the best player happens to be at a player of need. Part of that because you got a lot of positions of need, right? You don't have to make that decision. So it's a bit easier. It's like, best player's an edge rusher. It's like, perfect. You need a bunch of those. Best player might be a wide receiver. Great. You need a few of those too. What if it's a pass-catching tight end? You need one. Really, the only thing that you could stretch is if the best player available is a tackle and O-lineman. You don't need one now, but you will probably next year. I don't know how much longer Moton's going to be playing, so don't resist the urge just because if you have a guy that's like graded way above the rest and he's an offensive lineman, don't feel locked in. So again, in a weird way, it's not lucky that you have so many positions of need, but in a weird way, you don't have to make the decision that like so many are debating right now. With that being said, Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network, had a media availability today, and Dennis was able to ask him about the Carolina pick at number 8. And let's start with the Jalon Walker deal because Jalon Walker is, speaking of mock drafters, even when you're making 2 picks in a mock draft, one of them has to be Jalon Walker. Like he's getting mocked to the Carolina Panthers all over the place. By everybody. So here's Daniel Jeremiah on why Walker would be a great fit for the Panthers.
When you go into a defense that's dead last and points, yards, rushing yards per game, tied for 29th in sacks, 32nd pressure rate, he helps all those areas. He is an impactful player. You can move him around. He just would add a really explosive element to their defense. I would love to see how they could play him off of Derrick Brown. And being able to, let him kind of shoot some gaps that are going to be vacated with all the attention that Derrick Brown's going to require. So I think he'd be a fun fit there. Plus, just from like a leadership standpoint, a culture builder, he checks those boxes as well. So that's why I love his fit there.
You know how I feel about that second part. I love everything about the first part. I actually let me walk it all back. The leadership stuff, that's a bonus. Okay, I don't think you draft a guy because he's a leader. That can be a tiebreaker, and if it happens to be the player who you think fits your team best and they're a leader, you love it. The reason why I think he fits with the Panthers is because, and Dan Morgan said this to the media, the Panthers see him as a true outside linebacker. They see him as a guy that gets out on the edge, and that to me is where they need a player. If they saw him as like a hybrid, if they saw him as an off-ball backer that can get after the quarterback, if they saw him as a queen on the chessboard that can do a little bit of, I'm a little less understanding of the fit. But if they see him truly as a outside linebacker, get after the quarterback, make passing downs miserable for the other team, then I think it's a good fit. Because I think he's dynamic in his ability. I think he finishes with violence once he gets to the ball carrier. I think he's a good player. Daniel Jeremiah is also hearing that Carolina could move back, and this is his explanation.
They're a team that a lot of people around the league expect is going to try and get out. There's a decent number of needs still left on that roster, and can't they parlay New Orleans need for a quarterback into scaring somebody to come up in front of New Orleans? I don't know if they can pull that off, but at least there's people around the league that think they're going to effort to do that in Carolina.
This gets hairy now. And by the way, I like the way Dan Morgan has operated, but this is where it gets hairy. You don't want to be the team that everybody knows wants to get out of your pick, because nobody's going to offer you real value when they think you want to get off. So you need to either build up a bidding war where you have multiple teams and their interest will, or you have to truly bluff them and say, no, we're going to stick and pick. You got to pay us more. We're going to stick and pick. You don't want to be the team that obviously is like, we'll take anything. Please, we want to trade back. Give us a seventh. Give us something. We'll move back. You don't want to be that team.
I think they would hold the cards if someone's trying to go up and get a quarterback.
Yes.
Hey, look, if you premium position, it's going to cost you a little extra. Otherwise, we're going to stay right here.
And we've talked about that. There is the perfect storm of, if people truly believe that the Saints will take Shedeur Sanders if he's there, and Shedeur Sanders is there at Carolina, and there are other people in the league that look at Shedeur Sanders as a long-term franchise starting quarterback. And it's smokescreen season. We've heard a billion different reports. Some, at one point in time, he was kind of a lock to be a top 5 pick, top 4 pick. Now it's Albert Breer said there's many evaluators that don't see him as a first-round pick at all. So if the perfect storm happens with Shedeur Sanders, then yeah, you hold the cards and it's glorious. And you trade back and you dance, right? That's what you do. Happy dance. I would love to see Dan Morgan's happy dance.
Let's say a team is offering you something to move up to 8 if you're Dan Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
Do you call up the Saints and go, hey, look, someone's offering something. You want to flip? 8-9, I know you're in our division, but we don't think this guy's going to be any good. But then you can say, hey, look, if you really want this guy, we're going to need your next 2 first-round picks along with pick 9. We're also going to need a couple thirds. You can really hold them at a ransom if you wanted to.
I think just
to see if they bite.
I don't want to. I think it depends on your relationship with the team moving up. I think it depends. Is this someone you trust? Is this someone that you've shared information with? Because if they're trying to move up and you go and they say hey, do me a solid and just don't let New Orleans know. How much do you want to honor that? And you don't have to, by the way. This is the NFL. This is big boy. You can go, oh, yeah, I won't tell him. Oh, of course. Call up New Orleans. Hey, just so you know, so-and-so's on the line. You don't have to do any of it, but I do think you need to have allies in the league, right? You do need to have allies in the league that you can trust. So when the reverse happens, right? Because maybe somewhere down the road, right, you're going to be hoping for a player, and they're going to call you up and go, hey, just so you know, so-and-so is offering me to come get your guy. You do what you want to do. You want to be able to trust somebody, right? It's big Survivor fan. It happens. If you're on Survivor, old school Survivor, not new school Survivor with all the stupid twists, you got to trust somebody out there. You got to trust somebody out there. So I think it depends who's asking. And you don't want to ever be in the best buddy group with people in your division, so you can lie and cheat and steal to New Orleans. Even if nobody's calling, call up New Orleans. Hey, just so you know, we got a couple calls. Sounds like they want Shedeur. I know we're in division, but if you can outbid them, you can outbid them. Get first and final, right? First offer, best offer. You got 1 minute and 30 seconds. Click. If you wanted to do it, you can do it. Then 50 years from now, when all the GMs are out of the league and they call up, who was the other team on the line for Shedeur? Oh, nobody at all.
Nobody.
You gave us that extra second just because, I wanted it. pancake eating. Never mind. For those of you that have seen the movie Draft Day.